Good afternoon.
Hi,
Happy
everyone.
Monday afternoon. Quite a big day in a lot of circles.
You're loud today.
You wanted energy.
I want energy, but I
If
don't
you want energy, you gotta
you
go
can't
for it.
yell at people.
Just wanted to let those of you that have really worked hard and gotten the PPP loan information in, and it's so encouraging to hear from those of you that are already starting to either started as early as last week getting funded, or some of our friends in salons today, some tomorrow, some the next day. We're starting to hear great things that these are taking place.
Have we heard anything about us yet?
Not yet,
Okay, nothing on us.
but that's doesn't matter.
Part of the wait, right?
Yeah, I mean, the
Part of
exciting,
the process.
exciting thing is that it's getting in the hands of you and those of you that need it. The update that I want to give you is that you've got an opportunity as a 1099, a sole proprietor, or an independent contractor. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit redundant because many of you are all of those things at once. Your open window for the PPP loan started last Friday, the 10th of April. So I've talked to some of you that have said, I tried and the bank didn't know, and or they said no, it wasn't open to me, or I was at a bank and they said that I had to have an account there, or I got bounced from one bank to the next. These are some of the difficult things that keep people from following through or maybe pushing on. And I guess what I want to give you is the energy to push on a little bit, to go forward, because these things are in place. If you're a sole proprietor or a 1099 person, almost the majority of that loan is going to be forgiven, because the only thing that comes into play really is your income, your average monthly income times 2.5, and that's what you're going to pay out as a result of it. So I think that you want to be sure and do that. One of the things that's true, and I'll give you just a personal story, our normal business bank for the distributorship is different than our normal business bank for the schools. And the distributorship bank is a local bank here in town that is not an SBA bank. And when I first started talking to our friend, our agent at the bank, he said, I'm not an SBA, I don't really know that much about the PPP loan, I know we're not going to offer it. Well, I ran into him at the grocery store on Saturday, and he said, hey, guess what? We've been in contact with the SBA. We're going to start offering this loan as of next week. We think we'll go up either Tuesday or Wednesday. And we had a little conversation, and I said, yes, now as of Friday, the 1099 sole proprietor window opened for that loan. And he said, yeah, that's the one we're going to be offering at our bank. So non-traditional SBA banks will more than likely have this, the PPP loan for independent contractors and sole proprietors, 1099 people. Mm-hmm. So please, where maybe you've been told no before, go back. The other thing I want to tell you is that I was in a conversation with one of our top accounts this morning, and they had people that gave up with unemployment comp out of frustration.
Oh boy. Either
they couldn't get through, or whatever the case may be. Maybe they were told no, and I know some of you independent contractors were told no as well. You got to stay with it. That's on you as well, because there's a difference, so that you know, there's a difference in what you're hearing in the news about the quote $1,200 that's being sent out this week to many taxpayers throughout the country. That's different than the additional unemployment weekly amount that they're going to be giving and making available to people who are currently on unemployment. That's a $600 weekly amount added to what you get from the state. But if you're not currently getting anything from the state, you are not going to be getting the additional $600 per week.
Because they don't recognize you.
Yeah, they don't know. Mm-hmm. They don't know. So there's a lot going on. Remember how we said this CARES Act was 885 pages long? There's so much people don't know. There's so much we don't know yet. I can tell you that on a school sense, and I know a lot of you have family that are in school, that are in not only beauty school, but trade schools, junior colleges, universities, and so on. Secretary DeVos just released a whole part of the CARES Act that applies to higher ed students. That's just now rolling out. To be quite frank, it's really, really difficult paperwork for the school to fill out and get in place. But the good news is, when we do that, it's going to offer assistance to all who need it within our schools. And so just know, I just looked at our local junior college, and the amount that they're getting is astronomical. I haven't looked up all the local schools, but there's going to be a lot of funds, and the amount that's being distributed now has to go in the hands as quickly as possible of its students who are needy. So if you've got a child who's home from college, a young adult who's home from college, they need to be working on their end, or you need to be working on their behalf. If you're in need, if they're in need of some of that additional funding, because it is available. Someone is going to be receiving that. So our whole thing is to kind of demystify and simplify as much as possible the various programs that are out there. There's lots of people talking about a lot of other things when it comes to the salon industry, but I think that this is something that can immediately help a lot of you. Not everything that we talk about, but some of the things that are right just for you. If you're a larger salon, something that I found out about last week is that in addition to the CARES Act, there is something called Federal Reserve. I think it's a Main Street loan. And there's restrictions on the loan. It's not for everybody. But what's interesting is that almost any bank would be willing to write it, because the Federal Reserve takes 95% of the loan responsibility away from the bank. So that the bank really has no risk involved in making that loan.
Good.
So that's something to ask your accountant about, ask your banker about. All the information's not out there yet. I want to be sure and tell you that. All of these things are developing day to day, overnight, all these different things. But however, it's out there, and the key is everyone realizes that small and mid-sized businesses are the heart of this country. And we have to continue to persevere, to move forward, to make our plans, and to be able to reopen when that time comes. So Terry?
You good?
I'm good
That's
for right
good.
now.
That was good information. I still get overwhelmed with thinking of all the things. Did we not? Are we waiting to hear? Make sure you're the aggressor on asking the questions, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about what's happening in the world. I heard a message this morning saying one of the professional experts on the doctor team, the committee, is saying we're probably going to be in masks for at least a year. So what does that mean? That means our guests will be in masks, and we'll be in masks, and our front desk will be at mask, and it will be just the new norm. And when we're home, we'll take the masks off, and when we're driving in our car, we might take the masks off, but we're going to be in a mask society for a while. So,
well, here's some things. For the manufacturers who might be listening,
brand it.
Great time to brand a mask for salons when they open and get it to market fast so that we can do that. We gave that suggestion today to John Paul Mitchell Systems, and I really hope that there's a great Paul Mitchell mask that comes out of it.
So, when you think about being very disciplined to what your safety pledge is going to be, it has to be obvious to the eye of the people, right? I mean, if you say to, let's use an example. Is it obvious when you get on an aircraft that the plane has been cleaned? No. Now, they could say that they've cleaned the plane. They could say that they've wiped down every tray. They can say a lot of things. They can say they were in the powder room and service that before the next flight was getting ready to board. The trouble is we have no proof of it. There's no trail of sanitation standards. And when you can't see it, you doubt it. So what we're going to talk about for a few minutes is how are we going to make it obvious to our guests when they arrive that they're in good hands with our practices, right?
And some things, Terry, with that regard, I was speaking with the salon owner this morning, and we were talking about the types of things, and I'll add some things in as you're going through this, but the thing I want to share right now is to think about when a doctor comes in on a normal, healthy visit. What they do most of the time, almost every time, is they come into the room and they wash their hands.
First thing.
Now, did I think their hands were filthy before that? Probably not, but they were with another patient. And so washing their hands and sanitizing their hands is important. Then they put on the gloves. So when you're thinking about some of these things Terry's going to talk about, and she just said, is it obvious? That's the thing I'm going to encourage you to do. Make your commitment and your standards to sanitation, make them obvious to the guest whenever possible. Whether it's cleaning your station, whether it's cleaning your chair, whether it's cleaning your hands and putting on gloves. Just to put on a pair of gloves and wear them all day is a waste of time. And it's a waste of customer or guest perception.
So we were thinking about what industry really is it absolutely obvious, and we're usually awake to see how obvious it is. We know the medical field. We know an operating room has its disciplines, but 9 times out of 10, the patient in the operating room isn't seeing all the disciplines, right? But in a dental office, you're witnessing those disciplines. And I remember going to the orthodontist and watching, 8 chairs where that orthodontist is jumping from chair to chair, washing hands between each patient, putting fresh gloves on for each patient, wearing a mask the entire time. That's not foreign to them. It's foreign to us, but it's not foreign to a field that has disciplines of sanitary requirements, right? So we're going to have to become like that. How do we do that, and where does that start? I think a really good thing about during this time might be something you consider is having proof that the chair that they're getting ready to occupy was absolutely serviced for sanitation. When you go into a doctor's office, they're changing the paper on the table. They're also making sure that that new tray has all new tools set up in the same direction on a fresh paper mat. Fresh gloves are laid there, so on and so forth.
Well, here's something that would surprise you. In school, for all of you when you went to cosmetology school, there is something called sanitation, and sanitation includes the station setup, and it has a very specific way.
Well, how many people just brush that aside?
It's completely gone in most cases
Ignored.
once they get to the salon.
Yeah, because then they start acting like they're in their own kitchen.
I mean, once they get into the salon,
Absolutely.
it's completely gone. They have to do it at school.
All right, so how do we bring that back? And those habits are very attractive to a customer because you're proving to them they're in good hands, right? The other thing you might think of, so this chair could be wrapped in a certain, maybe it's just in a paper wrap that has...
Well, there was someone on our call today when you brought that up that said check out some website for microfiber.
Microfiber, okay.
And I think that you could perhaps look into that as well.
We also may think during this time that it's very important, even though we say we wash our gowns each time, and we might go to a disposable cape, and they're out there. Would they be a little costly? Perhaps, but remember, this is the guest perception of your commitment and your pledge to their safety and the sanitation that they're receiving from you. So I think that's big. When I went to CVS to pick up something for my mom, and they did also have sneeze guards up. And what was amazing when I went to CVS, the checkout procedure was all on the outside of the sneeze guard. The scanner was on the outside of the sneeze guard, and I had to scan my own things, and all she was doing behind the sneeze guard was verifying I scanned properly. So I did the scanning, I did the bagging, I had gloves on and my mask, and then I had a Lysol disinfectant, and she encouraged me to wipe down the keypad for the credit card machine. She also, what else did she encourage me to do? Something else. But it was all steps that I appreciated. Now, 2 months ago, I would have thought, come on, let's move this along, right? But now, it's a form of comfort that you're having those services and disciplines created for you. Also, they had X's on the floor letting me know where I was to stand and wait for the next person to come in. All the staff had masks on. It's just going to be the new way. And I think it's key, especially if we want to come back and service. We're going to have to put these disciplines in place.
Well, and there's going to be some things. I know some of you are going to say, how far are we going to take this?
As far as we need to.
As far as the guest needs us to. We start at the guest and work backwards to the business. With everything that we know and everything that we can learn in the process. This is part of what we've been given this time for, this time out in business, to be able to say, what is the new normal going to be, and how do I make my guests feel comfortable with the fact that we've taken into consideration at the foremost their safety. So
we might have the guests wear gloves while they're in, if they
and a
have to
mask.
make it,
They
and
might have to wear a mask.
And their take-home purchases, they will get them. Perhaps you're going to have them scan, or you're going to enter the code on their side and they'll bag. You've got to set up all these things so it's easy to do business with you. You might have a kind of a bag rail that they're going to bag on their own side. People are willing to do all of this, but you can't look sloppy during this. It's got to be
no mistake,
really thought through.
Hand sanitizer, as much as it's been in demand,
it's not enough.
It's going to be even more in demand. There's not going to be a station in the salon. There's certainly not going to be a reception desk that doesn't have it available, immediately available.
But that's for the skin. It's what about all the surfaces?
Well, yeah,
That's
it doesn't
key.
work on a surface, that's for sure. And so we're going to have an antiseptic wipe, an antibacterial wipe of some sort that's going to be key in the salon, or like this antimicrobial fiber that's I haven't looked into it. That just came up on a phone call, so I don't really know that much about it, but it makes sense.
So let's think about all the areas where the guest will be. First of all, there's a common area called a waiting area. Are you really going to want many people in your waiting area, or do you text them from the parking lot and say, it's free for you to come in now, or it's safe for you to arrive in the salon?
I've talked to 2 different salons in the last 2 days that are going to have a doorman, not a man, a door person, that's going to manage the door of the salon, to let people know when they can come in, and they won't have to touch the door. That's the other thing. Because how are you going to sanitize that door for every guest that comes in and out?
I've been using my sleeves and rolling them down, right? I don't like to touch things, even here at PSC, because I don't know. The other thing is because most people have a phone, you could communicate and they could say, I'm here, and you could say, we're ready for you. Come on in, right?
But there'd be a great app too for those of you that are, a walk-in app. We're ready for you. That'd be terrific. Text works just as well, but I'm just thinking
it's something
automated.
right?
Cool.
Something kind of cool, and it's also let us know when you've arrived. The other, can you imagine restaurants and how they're thinking right now, and how they're going to service their dinner hour, and all these people wanting to dine at 6 o'clock? You always know that they have those bottlenecks.
Well, they're hoping they're going to have a bottleneck.
They're hoping.
It could change.
It really could. And are they going to be doing all the same surface, or are people going to be going to paper goods for a while? I don't know that.
Are they going to have predetermined announced seatings?
It could be, and try to change the way they seat their dining room so
Right.
it's positioned.
Further apart, but quicker turns.
Are they going to have
specific times?
Well, and you're thinking, are they going to have to lose seats in their dining rooms?
I think they will.
Well,
I think salons. I've talked to quite a few salon owners over this time, and they've gone in and taken stations out. They've gone in and repositioned stations in their salon so that they're at least
well, let's talk about this a little bit, because it's a rule in schools that if you have a fever, you're not allowed to return to school for 24 hours, right? And how many people have said, I've sent my child anyway.
Yeah.
I sent them. I couldn't get daycare. I sent them anyway. Well, guess what? You put that whole classroom at risk. We've got people that are gonna, how are your symptoms? Oh, I don't have any because they need a haircut so bad.
Yeah, right.
They could lie about it, right? We've got to be very careful because we're protecting every human being in our building, not just our guests, but our employees, right? And their families, because it all is, and so on and so on and so on. Are we prepared to do that? And what disciplines are we going to ask our guests to support? That's what's key.
Right.
We're asking that you support this during this time. We're not going to have beverages during this time. We're not having a common area. We're not having a break room during this time. Maybe you take a door off the break room during this time so it's not one where people think they can go hide for a few minutes. There's so many things that you can do, but you've got to walk your business and almost do a, what do they call that? A trial run. How would this look? What's the checkout feel like this? What bags are we going to use? What does take home look like right now? Who's going to be facing and doing the products? You've got to walk the process with the guest. You could also use the concierge theory of using the iPad for the guest to check in and check out and having someone who is facilitating the business at all times, rescheduling, doing take home, doing schedules. But one of the things that I would be, which I am, I was out in the yard and I didn't finish my sentence again. I was out in the yard and I looked up and I saw another individual and it's like, oh, hi! I didn't
6 feet.
I didn't know what to do, and she was just walking the neighborhood, and she kind of looked at me and thought, "Are we far enough away?" And I said, "Happy Easter!" And I kind of ran away, and she did too. It's awkward that the thing that we're so drawn to is human connection, and because this virus is so dangerous, especially for those who are surrounded by people with risks, you're avoiding human contact in all cases. I mean, I pulled in here today, and what's the first thing I do?
Who's here?
Who's here? I counted the cars. Okay, why are they here? Are they far enough away from me? And I don't want to be near anybody. And how are you going to do that when the salon's open? Because it's not going to open business as usual. Our business as usual is gone for right now.
For now. Yeah, and it could be forever. We could, there's some great things that are going to come out of this.
We could wear masks the rest of our lives.
We might.
So,
if so, I've got to have a cooler mask than what I have.
Yes, you do.
There's
so
no doubt about that.
Mark Cuban, right?
Yeah.
Janet was telling me Mark was being interviewed, and of course he owns the
Dallas Mavericks.
Dallas Mavericks. Thank you.
And many other things.
Yes, and he was talking about what's it going to be like for a fan to want to go to a arena.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same.
Or a fan to go to a concert.
Anything.
My
How do you
God.
know that seat was taken care of? How do you know the people, maybe they're going to do rows behind and seats apart, and maybe they're going to block off seats? You don't know what they're going to do. Also, do you know how, the people start getting liquored up a little bit, and they're hugging and taking their shirts off and everything else during sporting events.
A great
yes.
event, and who'd you just high five?
Well, and what is our new acceptable way to greet each other? The professional greeting, the world acceptable greeting forever has been shaking hands. Mm-hmm. So what is it going to be now? What are we going to do now to show? And when I tell you to show our respect with meeting someone, your face is going to have to light up. Mm-hmm. And eye contact's going to have to be key. And thank you. And maybe it's a little bump or it's the hey, how are you? But it's different. And I haven't had to shake hands yet during this time.
I shook hands once, but I had a glove on. The other person didn't.
Ooh, that's strange. Was that Matt?
That was really different.
Was that Matt?
No, I didn't shake hands with Matt.
Okay.
I shook hands with, I don't remember. I think it could have been the UPS driver. I think it was.
Dear God. So you're look and say, how many places has he been today?
I don't know.
You know, right? How many mailboxes? I know, but still, that doesn't free you from the new disciplines that we have to use. And no one's talked about, and nor have we discussed what is going to be our new international greeting. Because it is different.
Yeah, and I don't think we know yet. That's the thing. Somebody will come up with it. it'll be exciting when it happens, right?
Yeah. Hey, come on.
So, but it's all those things, the little things. Like how many people? I remember the first time I saw a store. It was the meat market that I go to for the family, and before I
clarify that.
yeah, yeah, it wasn't that type of meat market. But the fact of the matter is, I was getting ready to step up to check out, and I noticed this guy with a Lysol wipe, right? And he's doing the counter, and he does the check, the credit card machine, and everything else. And I'm thinking, geez, what's this? And I thought, well, maybe he spilled something. It's just one time. It was just the timing of me being there. So I get done, and I look at him, and he's doing the whole thing all over again, and the credit card machine, because I
And you
used
think,
it.
I have cooties, yes?
Yeah, yeah. But the fact of the matter is, how many salons would have thought about that?
No.
That little credit card pad that we have somebody put their credit card in as a need for any kind of sanitization.
That's right. Well, and she said, not everyone's wearing gloves. I need to tell you. That's why we're asking you to wipe that down, which made perfect sense to me. Okay, here's another thing. When you take a look at the things that are happening in the business, how is our staff going to want to do hair in a new way with gloves on?
You know what's funny is, and you know, I had this conversation with Bernie last week, and dear friend of many of you, Bernie Cook, and we had gotten done, I think, with our Friday
Call, and he called.
a Friday call,
Yeah.
and I was talking to him on my way home, and he was talking about the fact of having masks and how they were gonna, the adjustments that they made, and I said, Bernie, what about gloves? And he said, well, I don't think I could wear gloves. I'd have to change gloves every customer.
Yes, you do.
I said, yep. He said, well, I've never cut hair with gloves. I said, well, Bernie, all gloves aren't the same. Some gloves are, very much just like skin. And I think you could do it. So all of a sudden well, I've got to know. He said, I want to practice.
Of course, good.
He said, what kind of gloves are you talking about? And how much a box are they? And how many are in a box? And how am I going to build that into the cost? He said, I don't think I could build that. I said, sure, you could build that into the cost. How many of you out there use Green Circle, Salon, for recycling and the proper sustainability, the concept of sustainability? I've been in a salon with my daughter, and when we were checking out of that salon, they had a green fee that they added at the very end. So it was the price of the haircut color, the price of the products, and then there was an additional charge, which Green Circle recommends.
And it could be a safety fee.
You might have to have that.
That's right.
I mean, why not pass that cost directly on to the guest? It is an unusual cost. It's not built into your current structure. Whatever it is you're going to do is going to create an additional cost.
Okay, so here's some of you might say, well, how do we create a trial run with each other? Well, maybe you do a soft day the first day you open. It's all for first responders. And you give those services away as we're putting into place our safety disciplines. And I think that they would love that. And it's also a trial, it's a soft opening so we can get our disciplines in place, and we want to thank the people that have been there for us. I think that's powerful too. Mm-hmm. And it allows you, wow, Terry, finish. The reason I liked a soft opening that's not just with staff already knows your system.
And staff's going to forgive you.
Exactly.
If you miss a step.
Okay, that's all right. But the guest, we want them to question everything. We want to explain the whys behind it. Remember, WHY''S makes people wise and supportive, WISE. And so when you put those things in place, having people that aren't accustomed to the way you do things is going to help you say, did we look sloppy? Did that roll nicely? Where did we finish? Or where did we experience bottlenecks? What do we need to do differently in being ready for tomorrow? Good show, bad show. What was great about today, and what could we have improved on, right? You'll have to do a recap after maybe that day of doing and putting in the new systems. But you're going to ask for full support from your staff to come back in a different way. Jamie's going to have to be wearing gloves, And anyone that's working the space, anyone that's working an educational event, we're going to probably ask our guests.
More than that,
Exactly.
Jamie's going to need to put on new gloves for every guest that comes in.
Right?
Yeah.
When she's checking a guest out
In
of
front of the
space.
guest.
Exactly. And take a look at the other things that we have to have set up for wiping down the counter, putting something on there, maybe. Is it a hassle?
Not a hassle. It's different. It's change.
I guess that's the word I want.
And by and
It's
large,
different.
we reject or we don't like change, even though we're in a business of change. Isn't that interesting? All of you count on people wanting to change their look, change their hair, the length, the shape, the color. But when it comes to change ourselves, we kind of resist it.
Okay, so let's talk about one of the most crowded areas in the business, the shampoo area. All right? So the shampoo assistant is going to have gloves on. It's going to have a mask on. Are we going to drape them differently at the shampoo bowl? How are we going to clean those bowls? Half the time they're not cleaned all day long. How are we going to clean those bowls and prepare that guest so we visually know that's been sanitized and ready for the next guest to come in?
Well, think about the famous customer service story. The one I've heard for years is you get on an airplane and you put down the tray table
Then you go, oh.
and there's a coffee stain on it. You think they haven't fixed the engine of the plane.
No. I like when you open up to put your things in for your flight
And
and
somebody
there's
else's garbage in there.
Yeah, come on.
But the first one's been a customer service story forever. Now, what I think about is
Excuse me.
think about your take home that has dust on it. Are they going to believe your sanitation at the station if there's dust on the products you have up front? Are they going to believe that there's sanitation in the salon if the shampoo area has dirty color bowls and
Or wet chairs.
foils that have been taken out of the hair that are filling a shampoo bowl?
Or garbage
the chairs
overflowing.
are wet,
Yep.
the floor is wet. Everything matters when it comes to coming back.
So we go back to responsive thinking, right? We have to go through our business and what is our response going to be? Not only a tangible response, like how are we going to take care of these bowls, chairs, front desks, so on and so forth, but how are we going to speak about our disciplines? Our dialogue is key. Why are you doing this? We have these things in place to heighten our sanitation commitment and safety commitment to you. Period. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And we thought really hard on what you would need. Now remember, I use this example all the time because I was in the restaurant industry for years, hospitality for years. What are some of the worst things in hospitality? Worst to get happen at the table on your food.
Oh, you find a hair in it.
Find a hair in it. And it, to me, the thought of it can send me right back. Tell that brush story, because that's funny.
Oh, after we were married, Terri and I were getting ready in the morning. We lived where we had about an hour drive or half-hour drive to get to PSC in the morning. And we were getting ready and
Coffee and stuff.
I walked into the kitchen area and I had my 413 Paul Mitchell brush with me that I'd used to brush my hair, and it gathers a little hair in it and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, you'd honestly thought I cheated on her because I got in so much trouble.
I said, get that brush out of the kitchen.
It was the first time she ever hollered at me, but it hasn't been the last.
Well, wait a minute, but think about it. It was absolutely the enemy in my life, right? Because how many times I'd go to a table and they go, here's in my food. It's usually
Their own.
But they think it's someone who hasn't showered for 40 years in the back making their food. So, but hairdressers and you, very comfortable around hair.
Absolutely.
It doesn't bother them at all. So that's what
I don't
I'm
want to
saying.
eat it.
No,
but it doesn't bother me.
hairdressers have blown hair off pizza.
Yeah, of course.
And because they said, well, it's clean,
Yeah.
right? But here's the point. When you're comfortable, you can get foolish. When you're comfortable, you're not realizing how that's perceived by someone else. And especially during these delicate days of caution, you have to have the right things in place. And to the ridiculous, perhaps. But I think it'll pay off for you in a huge way.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, there's a lot of decisions in business.
And I'm not talking financially.
No. I mean, sometimes it's better to do more than you needed to than less than you should have. Because when you do less than you should have, you lose guests. And there's going to be such a natural reunion, I think, that's going to take place in salons. They've missed you, you've missed them, you've missed your staff. It has the potential to be extraordinary. However, do you want that to be one visit, or do you want that to be a forever guest? And I think that the only
we can't hug during this time. We can't do any of those things, right?
Yeah, and yet, you'll see it.
You'll see it, but be careful, because it's not as if we don't care. We're doing the things we're doing because our care factor is absolutely heightened, right?
Well, and I'll give you another example. This isn't somebody that I knew, but while I was talking to the banker on Saturday in the grocery store, I had gotten out of the main thoroughfare, so I'd be out of the way, and I parked my basket, and then I was talking to him kind of on the corner of one of the refrigerated counters. And I didn't give any thought, particularly beyond Matt and I talking. Well, all of a sudden, I feel this person behind me. And all she wanted is what was ever in that container, what was ever in that refrigerator.
That you were blocking?
She wanted to shop. And even though I was only blocking, a little bit of it, all of a sudden I felt her brushing up against me. And God bless this little old lady. She wanted whatever, I don't know whether it was butter or who knows what, but she wanted that. And,
your awareness is heightened.
I stepped away and I thought, okay, I'm okay, because I've got my mask, I've got my gloves. So I didn't really give as much thought to another person who may not have had that same.
I get it.
Yeah. So anyway.
Here's another thing. I mean, if I saw something, I don't know if it was the church service we listened to on Sunday or another post or something, but people said, what are you missing the most right now? Gosh, there's a lot. I mean, one of the biggest things I'm missing right now is baseball. I mean, you know how much I love it, and it's my happy place, and whether it's at home and with the doors open to feel that cool air coming into the house, or just watching it. I've been watching old baseball. Steve goes, how can you watch something that you already know the outcome? Because I miss the strikes and the slide, and you're out in the crowd. What's that going to do? What's it going to do when we can gather again? I miss that.
Mm-hmm. And the world misses that. And make no mistake, before Starbucks was that other place in between home and work, salons were. Salons was that gathering place in a community.
And
I think they are too. I just think that Starbucks made a business out of it. They made a whole business out of it. Whereas, in salons, we know that we have that, but we haven't really built a business around that. It's just a byproduct of our business. That's very, very good.
Anthony, can we open this up to questions?
Yeah, we've got
Antonio?
What did I say?
You called him Anthony.
How many times have I done that?
Okay. Riley Schaefer wants to know about drinks. She hears some salons are saying to bring your own beverages. What are your thoughts on that?
I think be careful. I think it's just another thing that's going to clutter up the area. And especially when you're coming in at first, I think your service speed is going to be at a faster pace.
I think
it's okay. But we're not, I think what you say is, if you're in need of a beverage, we're asking that you bring your own beverage. We're not going to be offering beverage service at this time. It's part of our safety pledge.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. Thanks, Riley.
What else do you have?
She also asked a question about iPads, which I think you guys talked about. Using iPads to check out in the front desk.
But guess what?
They can also be checking out at the station.
They also need to be wiped down in between services, right?
If a guest is going to touch them.
If the guest is going to touch them, they need to be wiped down.
And again, if you're going to present that in front of a guest, even though it might be only your fingerprints, they see it a mess, the way a lot of iPads can get. That's my one and only complaint on an iPad, is that
They look filthy.
the screens never look clean.
Right.
And so you're going to have to really work to keep the screens clean.
I mean, Janet said something to me today. She said, what do you think about people taking people's temperature on the way in? Gosh, we're asking that you use complete truths about your health right now. We're asking that if you have any symptoms of any kind, please delay your appointment with us. And I think we need to say that on our social media, maybe on a beautiful sign at our front door. Any symptoms of any kind, please delay your appointment with us.
You know, here's, I guess, my answer to that question. And I don't know what it'll wind up being when we are allowed back in to opening up our businesses.
I haven't seen it. You have. You've witnessed it.
However, one of our team members talked about taking some things to drop off, just to drop off at the hospital. They open the door, and you know, most hospitals have a vestibule where you go in, and there's two sets of doors, one from the street, then you're in a vestibule, and then you're inside the hospital.
Or a
rotating
revolving door, yeah.
Just to walk in. Now, they can't be visitors. They can't go anywhere in there. They can't visit anybody. Just dropping something off. They took her temperature. Now, you would think a hospital has every way of sanitizing. They have every way of treating infection, disease, etc. They're geared up for it. They're at a heightened awareness.
This was their non-negotiable.
But it was. It
Right?
was their non-negotiable.
So that's what I want to end with today. Safety measures, safety pledge, non-negotiables. Even if we say, oh, I know Ethel. No, these are our non-negotiables during this time.
And I would put it together. I would start publishing it. I'd make sure it was on a sign.
I'd have signage
in
up.
several places throughout the business, if
Even
not
at-
a small mirror decal at your station.
And even on an easel in the front, you could
Absolutely.
have it.
Absolutely. So I think, I hope you've enjoyed the topic. We had two main things going on in this. One was sanitation. And the great news about that is that it at least has an eye toward coming back to the salon, right? We're not there yet, but at least we're thinking about it, and we're giving you some ammunition and some tools to start working on to get ready to be back behind the chair, welcoming guests.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you Wednesday. And
Thank you.
if you have any questions, please post them to us so we're ready for you in advance. Thank you.
Thanks.